"He's not coming, is he?" I whispered, staring at my phone as the clock struck 9. The champagne had already gone flat, just like my heart. I stood in our renovated backyard surrounded by 25 of our closest friends and family, all of them awkwardly avoiding eye contact as I checked my phone for the 1,000th time. The string lights I'd spent hours hanging cast a soft glow over the anniversary cake, with 25 years together written in silver icing. Our wedding song had played 3 times already. I'd made excuse after excuse for John's absence, each one feeling more pathetic than the last. Traffic, I'd said at first, with a confident smile. Then, emergency at work, with a slight tremor in my voice. Now, silence as I clutched my phone, waiting for any response to my dozen increasingly desperate texts. My daughter Emma squeezed my hand. "Mom, maybe we should just start without him." I nodded mechanically, my teacher's smile firmly in place. The same one I used when comforting students after they failed a test. But inside, something was cracking. 25 years of marriage, and he couldn't even be bothered to show up or answer his damn phone. The party continued in an uncomfortable haze. I cut the cake alone, posed for pictures alone, accepted well-meaning gifts alone. When our first dance song played, my brother stepped in, patting my back awkwardly as tears threatened to spill. "Sarah," he whispered, "you deserve better than this." I broke away, mumbling something about checking the food. In the kitchen, I gripped the counter and took several deep breaths. That's when I heard 2 of John's colleagues whispering near the refrigerator. "Should someone tell her?" The woman's voice was barely audible. "Not our place," her companion replied. "Besides, it's been going on for years. She must know on some level." I froze, my blood turning to ice. They noticed me and scattered like startled birds, leaving me standing there, a plastic smile still fixed on my face as my world began to crumble. When the last guest left around midnight, Emma helped me clean up in silence. I insisted she go home to her apartment rather than stay the night as planned. "Mom, I don't think you should be alone," she argued. "I'm fine," I lied. "Your father probably got caught up with work." It wouldn't be the first time. After she reluctantly left, I sat alone at our dining room table, still wearing my new dress that had cost more than I'd spend on clothes in a year. The house felt cavernous, each tick of the clock echoing against the walls. At 1:47 a.m., I made a decision. I grabbed my keys, got in my car, and drove to John's office downtown. The building was dark except for the security lights. The guard at the front desk knew me well after 25 years. "Evening, Mrs. Johnson. Working late again?" I nodded, not trusting my voice, and took the elevator to the 12th floor. The offices of Johnson and Mercer Financial Advisors were empty and silent. John's corner office was dark. Standing there in the empty hallway, something inside me finally snapped. I wasn't some naive 20-something anymore. I was 48 years old, had raised a daughter, and had taught thousands of teenagers about critical thinking. How had I failed to apply those same skills to my own life? I drove home in a daze, pulled into our driveway, and noticed John's car wasn't there. I entered our house, kicked off my heels, and did something I'd never done in 25 years of marriage. I went looking. I started with his home office, methodically going through drawers I'd always respected as his private space. Nothing unusual. Next, I checked his closet, running my hands through pockets and feeling inside shoes. Nothing. Then I remembered the locked drawer in his nightstand. I'd always assumed it contained work documents or perhaps private mementos. Now, with shaking hands, I took a bobby pin from my hair and did something I'd only seen in movies. To my surprise, the lock clicked open after just a few attempts. Inside was a second phone. My heart pounding, I turned it on. No password required. The background image was a beach sunset with 2 silhouettes. Neither was mine. With trembling fingers, I opened his text messages and began to read. "Can't wait to see you tonight. Sorry about the awkward timing with your anniversary, but Mia has her recital, and I promised I wouldn't miss another one. Love you, The message was from someone saved simply as K. There were hundreds more stretching back years. Transferred money for Mia's braces. Miss you. For more days until you're back in Seattle. Told Sarah I'm going to the Denver conference. Will actually be with you. Excited for our weekend. My knees gave out and I sank to the floor, still clutching the phone. Mia. The name echoed in my head. A child. He had another child. I scrolled through the photos, each one a fresh dagger. John with a woman about my age, both smiling at the camera. John holding a young girl on his shoulders at what looked like a carnival. The three of them in front of a Christmas tree in a house I'd never seen. The timestamps told the devastating story. While I was grading papers late into the night, he was building another life. While I was planning our anniversary surprise, he was attending his daughter's recital. His other daughter. I must have sat there for hours, going through years of messages, photos, and calendar entries. A parallel life, meticulously documented and maintained. A life where I didn't exist. Dawn was breaking when I heard his key in the door. I hadn't moved from the bedroom floor. The evidence spread around me like the wreckage of my marriage. Sarah? His voice called from downstairs. Sorry, I missed the party. Emergency with a client in Tacoma. Phone died and he stopped in the doorway, taking in the scene, me still in my party dress, mascara streaked down my face, his secret phone in my hand. For a moment, neither of us spoke. 25 years of marriage hung in the balance. Who's Mia? I finally asked, my voice eerily calm. His face drained of color. Sarah, I can explain. Is she your daughter? I interrupted, holding up a photo of the girl who looked about 12. He sank onto the edge of the bed, suddenly looking every one of his 50 years. Yes. How long? 13 years, he whispered. 13 years. Half our marriage. While I was teaching middle school, running the household, and raising Emma, he'd been building a shadow family. Does Emma know? The thought of my daughter carrying this secret was unbearable. No, he said quickly. No one in this life knows. This life. As if he was some time traveler, bouncing between realities. And her mother? I held up a picture of the woman, refusing to say your other wife, or whatever she was. Karen. We met at a conference in Seattle. She lives in Portland. Portland. A 3-hour drive. All those overnight business trips, conferences, client emergencies. Do you love her? The question escaped before I could stop it. John looked at me, his face tortured. Sarah, it's complicated. A yes or no will suffice, I said, teacher mode fully engaged now. Yes, he whispered. But I love you too. It's different. I laughed then, a brittle sound that scared even me. How convenient for you. 2 families, 2 lives, twice the love. I stood up, my body on autopilot. Get out. Sarah, please get out. I screamed, hurling the phone at him. It hit the wall instead, cracking the screen. You don't get to explain. Not now. Not after 13 years. He tried to approach me, but I backed away. Don't touch me. Just go. After he left, I called in sick to school for the first time in 5 years. Then I did something I'd been meaning to do for months. I checked our joint finances. 3 hours later, I discovered the extent of his betrayal went far beyond the emotional. Regular transfers to an account I'd never seen. Thousands each month, steadily draining our retirement fund. With shaking hands, I added it up over $300,000 in the past decade. Money that should have been for our future, for Emma's graduate school, for the retirement we'd planned together. By noon, I was sitting in a lawyer's office, still wearing yesterday's dress. Mrs. Johnson, I recommend filing immediately, the attorney said after hearing my story. And freezing your joint assets before more money disappears. I nodded numbly. Do you have proof of the financial impropriety? The other family. I placed the phone on her desk. Everything's on here. 13 years of proof. The next 48 hours passed in a blur. Bank accounts frozen. Credit cards canceled. Locks changed. John called constantly, his messages becoming increasingly desperate. Sarah, please talk to me. I know I've made terrible mistakes. We can work through this. What have you told Emma? I hadn't told Emma anything yet. How do you tell your daughter that her father has another family? That the dad who missed her college graduation for a work emergency was actually at another daughter's middle school graduation? On the third day, I woke up with startling clarity. I knew exactly what I needed to do. First, I called Karen. Finding her number was shockingly easy. It was saved in John's other phone. She answered on the second ring. John, I'm in the middle of a staff meeting. This isn't John, I said, surprised by my steady voice. This is Sarah, his wife. Silence stretched between us, heavy with 25 years of history, mine, and 13 years of deception, ours. I think we need to talk, I continued. In person. To her credit, she agreed immediately. Yes, we do. We arranged to meet the following day at a coffee shop halfway between Portland and Seattle. I hung up, hands trembling but resolve strengthening. Next, I called Emma and asked her to come over that evening. I couldn't put it off any longer. When she arrived, her face was already tight with concern. Mom, what's going on? Dad's been calling me nonstop, asking if you're okay. I took her hands in mine and told her everything. The other family, the missing money, the years of lies. She listened in stunned silence, tears streaming down her face. All those times he couldn't make it to my events. I'm so sorry, I whispered, pulling her close. Don't you dare apologize, she said fiercely. You didn't do anything wrong. After Emma left, I packed a small overnight bag for my trip to meet Karen. As I folded clothes into the suitcase, I caught sight of myself in the mirror. Eyes clear, spine straight. I looked different somehow, like a woman I might have been if I hadn't spent 25 years being John's wife. The drive to the meeting spot gave me plenty of time to think. I rehearsed what I might say, how I would remain calm and dignified. But all my practice speeches flew out the window when I saw them sitting there. Karen and Mia were waiting at an outdoor table. The girl was the spitting image of Emma at that age, same sandy blonde hair, same dimple in her right cheek. John's genes, stamped on another child's face. They hadn't seen me yet. I watched as Karen leaned over and said something that made Mia laugh. The casual intimacy of it sent a wave of nausea through me. How many Sunday mornings had John shared with them while I thought he was working? How many inside jokes did they have? I approached the table on legs that felt like they might give way. Karen. My voice sounded distant to my own ears. The woman looked up, her face impossible to read. She was pretty in an understated way, about my age, with kind eyes that were currently filled with apprehension. Sarah, she acknowledged, standing to shake my hand as if this were a business meeting. This is Mia. The girl looked confused and nervous. Mom, what's going on? Why are we meeting Dad's coworker? The words hit me like a physical blow. Coworker. That's who I was to this child. Mia, Karen said gently, Sarah isn't your father's coworker. She's his wife. Mia's face went blank with incomprehension. What? Dad's married to you. Karen closed her eyes briefly. We need to talk about that. We sat in awkward silence for a moment before Karen spoke again. Sarah, before anything else, I want you to know that I had no idea John was married when we met. By the time I found out, I was already pregnant with Mia. I nodded stiffly. When did you find out? When Mia was about 2, she admitted. John told me he was separated and getting divorced, but it was complicated because of his daughter. She looked at me with genuine remorse. By then, we'd built a life together. He was Mia's father. I told myself his other life was ending anyway. I felt a strange sense of kinship with this woman who'd also been deceived. He told you we were separating? All these years. Karen's expression hardened. At first. Then it became clear that wasn't happening, but by then. She gestured helplessly at Mia. We had a family. He said he couldn't bear to lose either of us. So he kept both, I said flatly. Mia was listening with growing distress. Mom, what are you saying? Dad isn't married to someone else. He lives with us. Karen and I exchanged a look of shared pain. John had been playing house in Portland while maintaining his marriage in Seattle. The audacity was breathtaking. Honey, Karen said carefully, Dad doesn't live with us full-time because he has another home. With Sarah. They've been married for 25 years. Mia looked at me with dawning horror. 25 years? But that would mean he was married to me when you were born, I confirmed gently. And he has another daughter. Emma. She's 23. Mia pushed back from the table, tears welling in her eyes. You're lying. Both of you. Karen reached for her, but Mia jerked away and ran to the bathroom. Karen looked at me apologetically. She adores her father. So did Emma, I said quietly. We sat in silence for a moment before Karen spoke again. What happens now? I pulled out a folder I'd brought with me. These are bank statements showing transfers from our joint accounts to what I assume is yours. Over $300,000 in total. Karen's face paled. I had no idea that money was coming from your accounts. He told me it was from his personal savings and investments. I believed her. John had manipulated us both. I've spoken to a lawyer, I continued. I'm filing for divorce and will be seeking to recover those funds. Karen nodded slowly. That's fair. I'll cooperate however I can. Mia returned, eyes red but composed. She sat down and looked directly at me. Do you have pictures? Of my sister. The question caught me off guard. I pulled out my phone and found a recent photo of Emma at her college graduation. I handed it to Mia, who studied it intently. She looks like me, Mia whispered. Yes, I agreed. She does. Karen cleared her throat. Sarah, there's something else you should know. John and I aren't actually married. This surprised me. You're not. She shook her head. He always had excuses for why we couldn't marry yet. Financial reasons, legal complications from his previous marriage. I realize now he could never marry me because he was still married to you. The pieces were falling into place. John hadn't just been living a double life. He'd been performing a complex juggling act, telling each of us exactly what we needed to hear to maintain the status quo. As our strange meeting drew to a close, Karen handed me a USB drive. These are copies of all the financial records I have. Accounts, property information in Portland, everything. I took it gratefully. Thank you. Mia looked at me hesitantly. Will I ever meet Emma? That's up to her, I said honestly. But I'll ask her. On the drive back to Seattle, I felt strangely lighter. The weight of uncertainty had been replaced by the clarity of truth. John had betrayed us all, me, Emma, Karen, and Mia, but his deception had finally caught up with him. When I got home, I found John sitting on our front porch. He stood as I approached, his face haggard. You met them, he said. Not a question. Yes. Sarah, please, I held up my hand. I'm not interested in your explanations, John. There's nothing you can say that would justify 13 years of lies. I love you, he tried. You forfeited the right to say those words to me, I replied coldly. The divorce papers will be ready next week. Until then, stay away from me and Emma. Emma, he repeated hollowly. Does she know? About her sister? Yes. He flinched. She must hate me. That's between you and her, I said. But let me be clear about one thing. If you ever try to contact me except through my lawyer, I will send copies of every message, every photo, every bank statement to everyone we know. Your colleagues, your clients, your golf buddies, everyone will know exactly who you are. His face crumpled. You would destroy my reputation? My career? The audacity of his self-pity ignited something fierce inside me. You didn't seem concerned about that while you were siphoning our retirement funds to support your second family. I was going to pay it back, he protested weakly. With what? More lies. I laughed bitterly. You're not the man I thought I married, John. Maybe you never were. I walked past him into the house and locked the door, leaving him standing there as the sun set on 25 years of what I'd thought was a marriage. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of legal meetings, financial discoveries, and emotional reckonings. I learned that John had put a down payment on a house in Portland, using our equity. He'd opened college funds for Mia, using our savings. He'd taken luxury vacations with Karen, using our credit cards. Each revelation should have devastated me anew, but instead, I felt increasingly detached from the pain. It was as if I was excavating artifacts from a past life rather than my own marriage. Emma, to my surprise, expressed interest in meeting Mia. She's my sister, Mom, no matter how messed up the circumstances. Their first meeting was awkward, but genuine. Two girls connected by blood and betrayal, finding common ground in their shared experiences with John. He missed my science fair for your dance recital, Emma said with a sad smile. And he missed my birthday for your college visit, Mia replied. They exchanged phone numbers before parting, a tentative bridge forming between their separate worlds. Karen and I developed an unlikely alliance, sharing information and supporting each other through the legal processes. She filed for full custody and child support. I filed for divorce and financial restitution. John, caught between his collapsing worlds, grew increasingly desperate. His carefully constructed house of cards was tumbling down, and he couldn't stop it. "Sarah, please," he begged during a court-mandated mediation session. "We can still fix this. 25 years has to count for something." I looked at him, really looked at him, and felt nothing but pity. "It did count, John. It counted every time you chose to lie, every time you stole from our future to fund your other life. You spent those 25 years, and now they're gone." 6 months after the anniversary party John never attended, our divorce was finalized. I kept the Seattle house, half of his retirement accounts, and received a settlement for the misappropriated funds. More importantly, I kept my dignity. Karen received a similar financial settlement and full custody of Mia, with John granted supervised visitation. His reputation in financial circles was irreparably damaged once the extent of his mismanagement came to light. On what would have been our 26th anniversary, I sat alone in my garden, not grieving, but reflecting. The string lights were still up from that fateful party, though I'd never had the heart to turn them on again. On impulse, I plugged them in. The soft glow illuminated the space where I'd once stood waiting for a man who never intended to show up. My phone buzzed with a text from Emma. "Thinking of you today, Mom. Proud of how strong you've been. Love you." I smiled and sent back a heart, then scrolled to a more recent thread, a group chat with Emma, Mia, and Karen. We were planning a weekend trip together, an unconventional family bonding experience born from shared pain. As twilight deepened, I raised a glass of champagne, not of the past, but to the future, to unexpected sisterhood, unlikely friendship, and the freedom that comes from finally facing the truth. The anniversary party John missed had been intended to celebrate 25 years of marriage. Instead, it became the catalyst for something far more valuable, the beginning of my authentic life. Was I right to expose everything to both families, or should I have kept it private for the children's sake? What would you have done in my position?